right, hello everyone. Welcome to H2O, your logistics show, weekly show. I'm the co-host Mario Brundle. Mitch, how are you today, my friend?
Hey Mario, what's going on?
Not much, not much. I got back from Europe. A lot of interesting talks with a lot of my friends there. But this show, I think we're going to talk a little bit about the Chinese New Year and how to prep for that. And more importantly, what do you need to do as a freight forwarder and shipper for next year to get ready? I'm super excited about this part of the show because, this week is always kind of a special week for me because I feel like the year is kind of over and we're kind of ready to go for the next year. Goal setting is happening a lot this week, and a lot of companies, but I'm mostly excited to really see, what's going to happen in the logistics industry next year. And everybody says, is it going to get better? Is it going to get better? Our freight rate's going to drop. I don't think it's going to happen. But yeah, I'm super excited about the show.
Yeah, I'm excited too. It's a great topic. But before we jump in, I just want to ask you a quick question. I know that you were coming back from Germany, and right now there's a big heightened concern about COVID coming in, and again the resurgence and how it's going to affect logistics. How was it with you coming back from Germany? I mean, well, we'll get back to the Chinese New Year, but how was it? Was it difficult?
Well, first it was great to see my family after 2 years being over here, right? And not be able to see my family. My oldest daughter is 7 now. See, last time she was there was 4, so it was great to see everyone. The first thing I saw is like how strict Europeans are when it comes to testing and when it comes to regulation when coming in. That was the big thing. Like you go to a Christmas market and the Christmas market guy that checks you in said, "Hey, have you been vaccinated?" And you have to show your little card and everything else. So that was the big change. But coming in, I was actually surprised. We got checked for our test when we checked in at the airport, but when we get to Customs and Border Protection, like nobody asked us for a test. Nobody asked us for if we're vaccinated or not. I was actually really surprised about that. I thought it would be more strict coming in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to talk about political things, but it was just interesting to hear because I've heard a lot of my friends and within the logistics industry, there's a spread. I mean, especially down in Florida and New York. So it was just interesting because I know that always affects the supply chain. So
for sure, and especially on the trucking side, I know that there's a lot of different trucking companies that really have shortages between like Christmas and New Year, especially in Europe because a lot of the drivers are heading home for the holidays. And I talked to a friend of mine in Hamburg, and he says, "Oh man, I got 160 containers I got to pull to the port next week, and I can't find the manpower to do it." It was kind of crazy,
Yeah, we're going to have those issues all year. And
sure.
we'll be talking about it all year. So, all right. Well, I just wanted to kind of
no, absolutely, man. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for asking. That's awesome. Yeah. So Mitch, we're getting ready for Chinese New Year.
Yep.
Me as an ocean freight forwarder, the interesting part that I always feel like is what's happening to the freight rates. I know you've been monitoring this a lot on a lot of your resources. It's always interesting for me right before any Chinese holiday, the New Year's. That freight rates are going kind of crazy. I mean, we had some guys offering us freight rates to LA for $18,000 and $19,000, and then I had other guys offering me $9,500. Right? I mean, the range is just insane. So what are you seeing out there?
I mean, I'm seeing kind of the same thing. One of the biggest concerns that I'm seeing is that a lot of these manufacturers are coming to me right now saying, "Mitchell, I have shipments that need to get out of China before Chinese New Year."
Yes.
So it's very difficult to tell them, "Hey, your stuff's going to move." So I don't know. The rates are astronomical still within. I mean, out of Yantian, for example, Yantian and Houston still paying around 15 to 17,000. So I mean, it's okay. It's stabilizing, but I mean, the capacity is incredible. I think that we're going to see a lot of challenges. But let me ask you that now that you brought that up. I'm getting a lot of people asking me about blank sailings out of China, especially that's one of their biggest concerns due to New Year's, right?
Yeah.
Because New Year's typically starts when does the Chinese New Year start? Like the end of January, between January and February.
Yeah.
So something with the
we should probably know when we do a show about this when it is. So that's kind of
funny. But what's crazy about this whole Chinese New Year is that 1 out of every 6 people on this planet celebrate Chinese New Year.
That is crazy. And
That's nuts.
by the way, it starts or it is on February 1st. So I had to look that up very quick. But you know what the funny part? You're absolutely right. So there's so many people who celebrate it. You know, technically it's only a few days, a few weeks. You know, carriers are generally speaking down for about 10 days, something like that.
Yeah.
You know, and it's amazing how much, especially last year, how much we got done like right up to Chinese New Year. You know, so for us it was really prepping really early. Try to book your space as early as you can. You know, and I mean, if you don't make it, don't even load the container. That's the only advice I can give someone, because we had stuff that got stuck at the port, and then even when they're opening up, it feels like the new container is getting loaded, but the old ones are still stuck at the port. You know, so that's one of the big things that I always noticed. You know,
Let me ask you something else now, just to clarify this. If I get a steamship line booking out of China and it's before their New Year's, is that guaranteed? Is there such thing as guaranteed?
There's never really. I mean, they have the guaranteed service, right? Like CMA has like the, I think they called it the Double Eagle service or something like that.
But you're paying what? Double? You're paying 2 times?
That's why it's called Double Eagle, right? No, I mean the premium is $4,000 to $5,000, something like that.
That's absurd.
Over a tariff rate, right? Which is already very expensive, right? So I mean the regular rate is $8,000, $9,000, and then they say, hey, if you pay the $5,000 premium, you guaranteed to load on the ship. That's been working really well though. So I rather have my customers have the options for this type of premium than not having it. Because if you don't have the premium and you kind of like hoping, oh, hopefully I'm going to load, you're going to tell the customer to pay $15,000, and then they're not going to get loaded on top of that, right? Which is not good.
But when it comes to the blank sailing, so let's say you have your container, you're paying your premiums, your container's at the port, we'll say Yantian, sitting to go.
Yeah.
And there's a blank sailing.
Well, so the cutoff.
How do you prepare for that, right?
Yeah. Well, the cutoff is associated to that vessel sailing, though, right? So as long as you don't miss the cutoff, you're going to make the ship, right?
Right.
But it has happened where people didn't get loaded and then they get stuck, you know, and you know, which is really unfortunate because there's simply no vessels. I'm curious to find out how many vessel voids are going to really happen this year, right? Because things have been so crazy. I'm wondering if there's not going to be as an aggressive void schedule, because I still believe that many times the void vessel or the vessel voids really just came into the mix for carriers to keep the freight rates high, you know, and I still believe kind of that's what's happening. But with freight rates being so high, I don't really know if this is really necessary this year, you know. So
now and a couple of things that I've also talked to some of my clients, I'm not sure if you talk to yours as well, is also look at different modes of transportation. Don't look at just ocean. If you know that you're going to have challenges on ocean and you're going to have a capacity issue, look at air freight.
I mean, right? Especially going to Europe. I didn't realize this until I spoke with my friends over there. I mean, there's a railway from China to the Europe now, right? That goes through the entire of Russia, right? And when I was still living in Europe, that was non-existent. Now this is a very feasible option, especially with freight rates as high as they are. That, you know, my friends in Germany, Netherlands, Belgium, even Spain, you know, they're many times looking at not at vessel anymore. They look at rail, you know, which is crazy. You know?
I know when I presented a rate to a client of mine and it had a rail portion to it in Asia, they were also shocked.
Yeah.
But it's becoming much more. I mean, you're seeing them. You see, you know, parts of China going into other countries by rail.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
But the rates are actually reasonable. They're not crazy like an ocean container, but I mean, it
was funny when it first came out, right? I remember this, right? Freight rates like let's say to Europe was like, you know, $4,000 or $5,000. The rail was $7,000, right? And everybody was saying, well, this will never work. Nobody will ever use it. There's no way this will ever work, right? And here we are paying, you know, to Europe sometimes $20,000, you know, and now rail looks like the winner, you know. But I like that there's other options that people are not stuck with this, you know.
I agree.
Hey man, let's talk a little bit about next year.
Whoa. Wait, I got a
Oh, you got
question
one
for you.
more? Come on.
I got one more question for you. This
Okay.
one's a good one. All right.
Okay.
So outside of China,
Yeah.
where is the second largest festival for Chinese New Year celebrated?
I don't know. LA?
You know, you're not
Well,
far.
hey, New York. I say New
No,
York.
you were good. Go back to the other coast.
Go back to the other
New
side,
York.
San Francisco. I don't know.
San
Uh,
Francisco.
oh, really? Well, I
Yes,
was just
San
thinking, okay, where are the
Francisco.
really big Chinatowns, right?
It is it when I read it on an article, and it said that San Francisco was the second largest festival outside of China to celebrate Chinese New Year. I was blown away.
Wow.
And all of these funny little things. I like trivial things, kind of like,
Well, yeah,
you know,
fun facts are the best, man. Yeah.
yeah. And not only that, but the best part about it is this is the time of year the Chinese do not cut their noodles when they eat them because it's considered bad luck. You want the long noodles. It's crazy. But anyways, just a little bit of fun information there.
Yeah,
You
no,
know?
man, I love it. I love it. So what we're gonna do next year? So first off, I gotta bring something up very quickly. I was amazed about the feedback we got from our last show, right? And
Yes.
I probably should have said that in the beginning and not in the middle of the show. But yeah,
Yes.
thank you so much, guys, for over 3,000 likes of our videos. And like I said, we're kind of new to this, and we're kind of figuring it out as we go. So
Yep.
yeah, keep sending me feedback. I got a lot of feedback from some of my customers and some of the people I'm dealing with. They're saying, hey, you should talk about this or to talk about that. So I'm super stoked about this. But for next year, obviously, we're going to keep growing this. We commit to you guys that we're going to do this once a week, and so we're very excited about this.
Yeah,
So
it was amazing. I was thrown back myself, Mario. When I called you and I saw that 10 days later, obviously there's people that want to know, and we want people to subscribe. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Help us grow. We want to try to hit 2,000 to 3,000 new subscribers by the end of January. So help us out with that. But thank you for the support. I think it was amazing.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think we have really good new shows coming up. We're gonna have guest speakers, so we're pretty pumped about this. But let's talk a little bit about next year, and especially what's gonna happen. I mean, we talk about M&A all the time, and I was shocked when I got the news from Senator, big European freight forwarder, very air freight heavy. Got sold to Maersk, or is about to get sold to Maersk in the first quarter for $644 million. Which actually, this might be actually euros. I'm not sure if it's dollars or euros, but I mean that is just like you always say, man. The carriers are going to take over the world, and I think if I have to say something, Maersk will probably be the first one, but I have to be careful because they still sent me cookies. Right, and those cookies are the best cookies in the whole wide world. And they sent us 6 boxes, and obviously a lot of the people are working from home. I might gain a couple pounds, thanks to Maersk. But yeah, what are you thinking about M&A, man? It's crazy. What else are you hearing out there?
Mario, if there's anyone that you want to talk to M&A about, that would be me, Mr. Bye. A lot of things. I think that 2022 is going to be a very exciting time in logistics. I really do. I really do. Yeah, Maersk did buy Senator, but also there's been a lot of stuff. For example, I'm going to share a quick little article if you don't mind, Mario.
Yeah, please.
Let me see if I could show you this quick little article. This was quite mind-blowing. So Sarah Banks, which is the global freight and logistics lead over at Accenture, had a little bit of a report, had this report posting of what her expectancies are in the 2022 year for mergers and acquisitions. And what was really funny was just this week alone, MSC made 5.7 bid to Ballora African Logistics. Maersk has agreed to buy LF Logistics, okay, which is Li Feng's fulfillment arm. I mean, these guys are preparing. I'm telling you, these guys are preparing.
Well, and what I'm thinking is happening, right, is people have so much cash now, right? Like it was always the poor carriers. Oh my gosh, you're not making any money, and they're posting losses after losses after losses, right? Yeah. Since COVID happened, that has changed so tremendously that all of a sudden they have so much more cash available. And I think it's just even a tax strategy, right? If you make a couple
Absolutely.
billion, why not blow half of that to buy someone? It's
I've
crazy.
been preaching it and saying it for months since Q2 of this year, Mario. I've been saying it that these
Yeah,
guys are going to be making so much money at the end of the year, you're going to see them spending billions of dollars buying all these different companies, and they're all arms of logistics. So Maersk has now bought Senator.
yeah,
They just bought for their forwarding. They just bought this LF Logistics. Okay, so that's going to do their fulfillment. I mean, they're literally placing. But keep in mind, MSC was also given approval to take over Brazilian log in logistics.
right.
So and CMA firmed up an order for 4 more freighters. So and that's all before last Wednesday.
Yeah, that's
So
insane.
there's a lot of moving parts. I think if you see AIT, Vaughn, the CEO at AIT, he's posted a few. They acquired a couple of companies, a couple of domestic companies, and vice versa. So I think there's also Hellman's. I think Hellman's going to be bought this year. I think there's going to be or in 2022. I think they're on the table. I think that parts of I don't know, probably Seco. Seco, hopefully, Seco's actually owned through Greenbrier, which is a
Right.
private equity company. So, but I could see them adding. They just sold BDP, right?
Well, and also, I mean, ocean freight. I mean, especially large forwarders are making an all-time high right now in terms of profitability. Right. A lot of my friends that work at big companies, right, they're saying it's the best of the best. Right. So if anybody wants to exit something, right, it's probably time to exit it now because it's almost like, okay, how much higher can this go? How much more expensive can this go? Right. And
Yep.
yeah, who knows? But the question is, what do these companies really want to achieve with all these acquisitions? Because as you know, one plus one not always equals two, right? And especially in some of these big companies, I mean, we have seen acquisitions not go super well, right? And I mean, I remember the Conship and Hapag merger, that was, I mean, that's probably 10, 15 years ago now, right? But I remember like that was a hot mess when all that happened. And especially when carriers are taking over forwarders, which is not really their business or their business forte. So I'm really interesting to see what's going to happen there.
Yeah, and I think that and I also think that the next and from what it says in the article as well, is that the only way that forwarders are actually going to stay in this market is that the freight forwarder is going to have to invest in itself. We go
Right.
back to technology. Because
Yeah.
what's happening is that they're going to be, if they don't invest, if you as a small forwarder, a mid-sized forwarder, don't invest in your forwarder itself,
Right.
manufacturers they are going to be investing.
Right.
So you got to keep up with it. And that's also in this article. I'll post a link below. Read the article. It's a great article from Accenture. They seem to have a pretty good grasp of what's going on. But I think that I think there's going to be a lot of changes. I think
Yeah.
that you're going to see a lot of the employees that we know, a lot of the people in the forwarding. I think we're going to see them on the steamship line on the carrier side.
Yeah, and you said employees, and that kind of hit a nerve with me because a lot of the conversations that I had with my friends over in Europe were just saying like the employees with all this new volume and all these new acquisitions, it became so much harder for them to work, right? So
Yeah.
they're saying that they have a highest level ever of like employees burning out, right? Because there's just so much more volume, and especially on the carrier side, they don't really hire more people to handle all this volume, right? They're just saying, no, we're going to keep going. We got to keep going, right? So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen next year, on the employee side. And I think customer service actually is going to decline further. And I think the customer service from some of these carriers is already pretty bad. So we'll see what's going to happen there.
I think the customer service at these steamship lines are quite challenging. And I think it's a personnel issue, right? Not a personal, but a
Yeah.
personnel issue.
Yeah.
I think their response times are again very slow with a lot of things. I
Yeah.
see it a lot on the domestic with either rail billing on the export side or just trying to find. It's we'll see. It's going to be an interesting year. But so just to kind of recap real quick. So for Chinese New Year's, let's go back to preparing for Chinese New Year's. So what are the 3 top things that you recommend for people to be prepared for the Chinese New Year's when it comes to logistics? 3
Yeah.
things.
Okay. So number one, get your agency network prepped prior. Okay. Don't book everything through the carriers because the carrier is going to tell you they're full, right? So we are dealing with almost 200 agents globally, right? So have plenty of agents that are ready to go, right? Number one. Number two, prep your shippers, and I wouldn't even talk about freight rates. I just would tell them, hey, said how much you need to get out and how much you need to get out before the Chinese New Year, and then offer the freight rates after the fact, once it's actually shipped, because so many times we got there at the 11th hour, we finally got it on the ship, but then the carrier said, hey, I need an extra $5,000 to really make this happen, or I'm looking at other options. And third thing for me would be simply, get the factory prepped too. The shipper is one thing, or your customer is one thing, but the factory, they're going a million miles a minute too, because their workers are going to go home and they can't stay an extra Saturday to load this. So the sooner you have it, the better, So
I agree. I mean, those are 3 things that every shipper should be prepared for. Also, very important as well. I did get an email from a client that was actually billed this. If you book a container with the steamship line in China, and your container does not make the cutoff or does not make the vessel, you will be charged for that container's full sailing.
Right.
That's something to be aware of as well.
And I think overall the carriers are going with that model, right? Like if you book on a premium service, I mean, we have seen cancellation fees as high as $8,000 and as little as $1,000. I think it really depends on which service you're booking on. But it's if you can't make it happen, make sure that someone is held liable for it. So
I agree. Hey, Mario, just a quick update before we end this and then we catch up on next week. 3 things. One is the port of Seattle. It's been closed for 2 days. So if you're getting containers out of Seattle, you're probably not going to be getting them. I know there's a lot of weather constraints. Also,
and let's talk about, while you do this, let's talk about trucking for a moment. So I gotta bust your balls a little bit on this, because I was like, I have 4 containers for one of my really good customers that I need to load next week. The main guy that I normally go to says I can't do it. Now, you know what the last trucking company offered me? $8,000 for a local Tacoma move. For a local Tacoma move. Can you believe it?
Mario, yeah. I speak to my clients daily on trucking, and they have this concept that they could still pay the same that they were paying last year, or even what they were paying 2 or 3 months ago. And that's a topic that we should definitely touch on. I
was just going to say, let's talk about it next week. And I would be super pumped. Like trucking is such an interesting portion of our business, and and obviously it's more your business than my business, but we offer trucking all the time, and we have some pretty cool strategies on how to get trucking done that I'm sure that you will share as well.
I think that would be a great one. It's I think that's probably going to be one of the best sessions that we do have, because there really is so much going on in trucking that it'll be fun. So I think that's definitely what we should talk about next week.
Absolutely. And I have one other big one that's really close to my heart is sales and scaling businesses. I really want to designate the show, especially for goal setting for the next year. That was one of the notes I took. Like goal setting, most people goal set at the end of the year, right? But we have a pretty cool strategy on how to go through with this and really actually grow your business, because it's such a challenging time. And what can we do better than try to grow the business in a challenging time? So.
I agree, man. Thanks, Mario. I mean, as always, this is such a fun time. I wish we could talk much longer, but I know our days are busy. So, but again, we'll do this again next week. Thank you so much on the update of China. I'm sure. Again, guys, if you have any questions or anything that you would like for us to discuss with respect to logistics, just let us know. And again, subscribe, hit like. We will be posting ones every week, giving you guys an update of what's going on here at H2O. So,
all right. Well, that wraps up our show. Thanks so much, guys, and talk to you soon.
Take care.
Take care.